Welcome to Behind the Scenes. We are back from Paris. We're literally back early from our vacation, and we have very
It's Donatella's fault, and I would like her to know.
I
would like her to know specifically Donatella's fault.
To blame. Yeah. This is the live Q&A show that we do every Friday at noon Pacific, which our club members can join live and ask us questions live, or you can put a message on the in the forum for lunch behind the scenes and ask a question, or you can always send it in to gymcastic@gmail.com, and you can listen to anywhere. If you can't make it live, you can listen from anywhere. Instructions are in the show notes. They're always in the forum and your VIP section for members. And please know that this show is R-ish because
gonna be pretty R today.
Pretty hard because so you will hear bad words and because of feelings. And also, if you're joining us for the very first time, welcome to all of our new members.
Welcome to Gymnastics. It's always like this.
It's always like this, just like Spencer said in the preview episode of before we started, where we're like, let's go over all of the Olympic scandals and why they happen. And the obscure rules article, because we were like, there's always something that'll happen that will cost you a medal. And here we are. But so the behind the scenes is kind of like, some people call it the OnlyFans minus nudity of Gymcastics, our true unfiltered feelings.
Who are these people?
More or less. It's been called that, Spencer. Where have you been? These are the DMs that get sent to me, Spencer, that I have to take all of your marriage proposals. And this is also with some life stories. We'll tell you what it's like to do this for a living the dream, which we have some documentary evidence that Fact Checker can show those whenever he's ready. So this was how vacation was. So we were like, if you're a visual listener, Spencer can describe the photos that we are about to show. So here we go. So this is us in some at Mont Saint Michel, that place that's like surrounded by quicksand. So Spencer,
Fact Checker's having a grand time. Fact Checker's living his best life. Jessica looks like she's about to die because she's obviously receiving a text about like what Nadia said now or something.
Yep. Let me tell you guys the timeline of things that happened. It was before I had left the arena when I knew the cast filing was happening, which is why more photos of our poor beloved Fact Checker trying to enjoy his vacation.
Like, we're going to have a French vacation. And Jessica's like, no, I don't want to walk. I don't want to go anywhere. There's too much to do.
Me texting in a monastery. That's what Mont Saint Michel is. The poor Fact Checker. But I did try to, amongst like taking phone calls and like getting into this and getting information and breaking news, by the way. Where did you hear it first? That the U.S. and the Romanians agreed to a three-way bronze, and the IOC and FOG said no? Yes, GymCastic. Breaking the news once again. This is why, because the news never stops, even when you're in a monastery in France. What? First of all, can I just say something about Mont Saint Michel? It's there for a reason. It's like an impenetrable fortress that was once a prison because it's surrounded by quicksand. And we get there and there's all these people in their bathing suits. And I was like, oh, they just must be like, oh, we're going to get a tan while we walk around the monastery. I don't know. People like treat it like a beach day. It's quicksand. It literally quicksand, and there are people out like walking around in it, riding their bikes through it. I was like, you can actually buy like the quicksand experience where they like put you in the quicksand and then you can learn how to get out of it, which might be very practical. But as a child of the 80s, I know better than to ever go anywhere near quicksand. So I just wanted to scream at everyone the entire time, what's wrong with you? Yes, absolutely not. Quicksand is real. It's not made up. Princess Bride and all the after school specials were not lying to you. So you guys, I just wanted to put this in perspective. Gymnastics is a dumpster fire as usual, but quicksand is real.
The quicksand is real.
Quicksand's real. So yeah. Monday's episode will be the definitive guide to this fucking debacle. So, but before we get to that, we want to answer your questions here, which there should be many, because what a fucking shit show. Spencer,
or none, because like this is just a mess. Whatever.
It's just a disaster. Spencer, what are your thoughts?
Oh God, that's very open-ended. Okay. I'm mad at everything, and everyone is bad at everything they try, is my overall thought, which is a reinforced worldview. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Generally, what has frustrated me about this is both the nationalistic sides and the sidesiness of everything.
Yes.
Because my feeling is we have 3 athletes who've been let down by an organization that is supposed to exist to be good stewards for the gymnasts, and the FIG failed in that regard. And they have also, both in terms of the actual running of the floor exercise final and the lack of leadership and accountability in the aftermath. And so that has been frustrating to me, that it has been turned into a nationalistic thing or a sides thing, because it really is just 3 athletes who got screwed over. And I feel like it's very reasonable to, on the one hand, just say like, yeah, you awarded Jordan Childs the bronze medal, so the bronze medal is hers. That's what the rules are, that you don't go back and rejudge finals. You don't go back and change the results after, unless a rule has been broken, someone cheated, drug, doping, age falsification, nothing like that happened. The competition is over and Jordan Childs is the bronze medalist. You can have that, and you can be like, oh, they made a bunch of errors in this final and Sabrina Voinea should have been 3rd to begin with. Both of those things are true, and you can think both of them, and I do. And that defies the sort of the taking sides in it all that I find kind of off-putting.
Yep. I agree. Like I've been reading through, so I basically spent the entire, yesterday was a 21-hour travel day, and we got in last night just before 10 p.m. here. And I spent the entire plane ride just reviewing everything. Because I want to know everything and making my notes for everything. Because I want to know everything the Romanian news reported, everything American news reported. And then I wanted to go through and see what are just general people who don't know shit saying. Like one of my favorite...
Oh, that's not a good activity.
I know, it's terrible.
It's like a part of me wants to wait like another 3 weeks to talk about this until like the rowdy guests have dispersed. We can talk about this as like the gymnastics people. I know like gymnastics people have a bad reputation for being gatekeepy, but it's like, this is why there's so much wrong in like articles.
Yeah,
there's so much lack of nuance and lack of detail, and it's, you know, this is why gymnastics people are so gatekeepy, because there's all this wrong out there.
Yeah, I basically, part of like what I wanted to do was like, all right, we're gonna do like the definitive guide to this so far. So far, ...
Right. Is Swiss Federal Tribunal, which is something we have to know what it is now. Thanks, Donatella.
Rude. But I want people to understand, like, this is just about, this is not a country versus country, exactly what you said. Like, so many people are like, of course, Romania, ex-communist, blah, blah, blah. And believe me, there's a lot of that shit going on. But it has nothing to do with that. But I want to, like, put the big picture in for people and be like, gymnastics is supposed to be fair for everyone. So let's start from there. Is it fair that you, like, the judges mess up? So there's a mechanism to fix that. It's called an inquiry. But it's not fair to all the gymnasts. If you're up last, you don't get the same amount of time to put an inquiry in. Like, let's just start with that. I mean,
yeah. And let's start with, like, what Donatella accepting this inquiry. That's what I can't get past. Everyone's like the CAS and what should they have done and should they have ruled in the Swiss Federal Tribunal. I'm like, Donatella accepted that inquiry after 2 whole quads of being like, no leap ever gets credited. What's going on?
And this is the thing, like, I do think that because the new evidence, because the way that you accept evidence, an inquiry is verbal. And then you get to the desk and you write things down and you boop, 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 and you enter it. Because it's verbal, the new evidence is definitive and it will exonerate Cecile and it will show that
exonerate.
Which she doesn't need to be exonerated.
Like you've been accused of a crime. So basically the issue is, I mean, should we just do some bullet points?
Bullet points.
Okay. Patient 0 bullet point is that Sabrina Voinea was deducted for an out of bounds that never happened. So her score was 13.7 in the final, should have been 13.8 if she hadn't been deducted for that bullet point, and then none of this would have ever happened because she would have been on 13.8 and she would have been the bronze medalist. Inquiry doesn't matter. So that's the patient 0 mistake, was a line judging error, of which we now know there were a ton at this Olympics. And so that's our first problem. Second problem is then an inquiry. So Jordan Childs' difficulty score came up as 5.8. That was right. And then, yeah, because I think part of it is like,
the judges can mess up. This is my other biggest thing.
D&E judges had been left to their own devices, everything would have been fine.
That's the other big thing. The judges are being blamed for this, and all the nationalism. I'm like, the judges were right. The judges did the right thing. The judges did a great job. The judges are exactly what we did all these episodes showing, like how these are the most consistent judges over time. And there's a whole system in the JEP system in 2 episodes with the guy who spent 13 years putting this together. And then everyone's like, the judges, oh, the judges choose this, choose that. And I'm like, no, the judges were right. Go on, Spencer.
So they get 5.8. The issue is Jordan Childs' Gojian, her split leap 1.5 turn. This is the question. She has never gotten credit for this skill through U.S. nationals, as we talked about, through previous Olympic trials. She did it way better this time than she usually did. And I agree with Cecile's comment. She was like, yeah, Jordan never gets credit for that skill, but she did it way better. So I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. But I didn't think it was going to be accepted. And then it was. I was like, yes, I'm exactly on the same page as Cecile on that. It's exactly what I thought. She did it way better. It was still under. And of course, we've watched it I've watched it 94 times since then. And I'm like, yeah, this is under rotated. And so the big surprise is then this goes to the superior jury. Donatella Sacchi looks at it. We now know that she was the one looking at it because she's talked about it.
And also because the superior jury, we went over this in the last episode. The superior jury, Donatella and Libov are the 2 superior jury people. And then for floor, it was Joanna Gratt. And they are also, this is the important thing to me, they are number 1, they're, what's the level called? Brevet 1. It's like you're the fanciest.
Category 1.
Category 1, which is you scored the highest on everything.
Superior jury. They're the specials.
The specials.
It was an inconsistent. Yeah, the superiors, the specials, the ladies who lunch is basically what they are. But it was an inconsistent evaluation of this skill to then go back and give it credit. And so part of what you'll hear from gymnastics nerdies is that Jordan Childs' inquiry shouldn't have been accepted, not because of this timing, this ticky-tack timing issue, which I'm sure we'll get into discussing, but because of the merits of the skill, and giving credit to it was inconsistent with how the rest of the competition had been evaluated. Right. The judges have been consistent in their strictness, mostly, about leap rotation, and that, allegedly, if you're within a quarter, you can get credit, but that's not how it's been evaluated at all. It's been, if you are even the slightest bit under or seem like you might be under, you're not going to get credit. Even when a few weeks before the Olympics, when you talked to Shilese Jones' coach, Sarah, about how the feedback she had gotten was that Shilese wasn't going to get her Yurchenko double full credited. And we were like, what? And she was like, what? She was like, I don't know what to do about that. That's how the feedback has been about the strictness of rotation.
Yep.
And so then to see that get credited was inconsistent with everything we had seen before. And it felt like everything from Donatella, I think that we've seen, has felt very wishy-washy. It's like, this is then inconsistent. The credit of this skill is inconsistent with what we had heard before. And in the CAS report, there was a lot of, I thought, wishy-washiness. I also will give benefit of the doubt. There's also a part where she's like, I don't know how you say it. And I'm like, did we not have translation ability available for Donatella? That seems kind of unfair and speaks to the rushed nature of that process that you can have a lot of issues with.
Lady Beaverhausen. Fun fact.
Category 2 brevets can be elected to the Women's Technical Committee, at which point their rating is automatically raised to Category 1. So the superior jury is by default Category 1 based on being on the Women's Technical Committee.
Oh my God, Lady Beaverhausen, I was literally just texting you to ask, they can't just be brevet 1s without actually testing, right? They actually earned that, right? And luckily you're here to answer that.
They get elected.
What the fuck?
You know how the person who wins the popularity contest is obviously the most qualified?
Oh my God. Because this is the thing. Yeah, they are elected officials. I can't believe this is... So Nellie Kim is also a category.
Add it to the list of our, things that need to be removed, things that need to be changed. what are the moving forward changes, which is like an hour long.
Right. So this is my other question, Lady Beaverhausen. How do we know if someone is moved to that category? Because I tried to find this and couldn't find it. Like, how do you know what their test score was versus if they were moved there because of their elected position? They're just anyone in there. You just assume they didn't actually get a category 1 on their test. That's what I'm assuming now. But I'm horrified. Horrified. Yeah. So I am so just frustrated by how this is turned into a whole like commie nonsense thing. But I also understand why it's turned into this like old Cold War stuff coming up again about nationalism, because there is a contingent of women who are very powerful within the Romanian system who still operate under the Karoli system, which is if you yell the loudest with some lie and flap your arms around, some people call this white tears, then you will get your way. And this is what has happened with some lies that have been told to the point where they became fact that people actually believed, and they are not. Like, for example, that Voinea's coach inquired about the out of bounds, which she did not. She never inquired about the out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to establish that very early on. She inquired about Voinea's D score and asked for a 6-1. And then Nadia put out side-by-side routines that were different D values as evidence of how Voinea was done wrong. And I was like, oh my God, Nadia, like, don't just believe the nonsense that, Camilla, who's Voinea's mom and coach, is telling you. Like, so, yeah, I mean, thank God we're here to fix all this nonsense.
Yeah. And so, I mean, to that point, you shouldn't have to inquire. Like, this is the issue. Like, it was still an incorrect out of bounds call. It's still, she was done wrong by the line judging, regardless of whether the coach inquired about it or not. It's still an incorrect call. Question for you.
But
obviously,
you can see, you can see how the judges could get that wrong with the information they had, because, like, to me, everyone's talking about her heel, and to me, it didn't look like her heel. It looked like her foot that was up touched down.
The toe that was up does look like it when you pause it and when you watch it in slow motion. When you watch it in fast motion, it's clear that toe is above the ground.
Right.
You can sweep around the out of bounds area as much as you want, as long as you don't touch down. And I think it's pretty clear she did not touch down.
Yeah, and I agree with that now. But I can see how when they if they had reviewed it afterwards, which no one did review it because there was never an inquiry on the neutral deduction out of bounds, the view is top down. But that never happened, even though...
Which we know now. It's been a question about what you can inquire a lot. It's like, we'll never forget that you can inquire D, time, and line.
Yep.
Those are the ones.
Yep.
But the other issue is one of technology, and I think that Omega is going to come in for a lot of focus on, like, your system is a big part of the problem, because then you have to ask, we had so many of these out of bounds problems at this Olympics and not getting deducted for out of bounds or getting deducted when it didn't exist. So why is OBS showing up with 775 cameras where you can get a 360-degree stop motion view of every aspect of Shallon Olsen's chung, but then the line judges are watching this on like a Game Boy, I guess? Like, what is going on? Why is this? What are you doing? And so we have so many things that need to be looked into, and hopefully will be revised in the future, that the line judges need to be given much better information, much better ability to make those calls, or just need to be replaced by robots.
And this is where exactly what I was going to say. We have Fujitsu.
Also, Fujitsu is there.
If you'd like to hear the rest, the next 40-50 minutes of us answering questions about the situation, or you like hearing the stories, there's more of that to come. We do this every Friday at noon Pacific, and we'd love it if you join us. Join Club Gym Nerd at gymcastic.com.